pockets ready to glue to our weekly pages. We made another tuck spot in our last video, but we need tags for writing space in our planner. Hi everyone, Patty here. So let's get started and make 3 tags, glue our 2 pockets, and work on our February planner. Gather your supplies and let's craft together in our planner. I'm ready to add January to our journal cover, a quick flip through of January, and more to come on how I made this cover later in the year. The spine has elastic bands to hold the monthly inserts. I will keep the monthly inserts by my chair for handy use, and at the end of the month I'll add them to the journal cover. By the end of the year we'll have a full journal and a finished journal cover. I really like our flip-out pages we made last month for our planner pages. These really add some dimension to the pages and interaction, which is nice to go back and look at what I had wrote and felt during the month, but it's not exposed to everyone at a first glance. As for the step counter and staying on track with my habit tracker, well, we have room to improve. Every page has something on it, and that is my goal for 2026. No page left undone. Pockets are full of additional thoughts and plans for the year, what I want to include in a couple JJs I'm working on. The tuck spot on the back page has 4 small journaling cards, perfect for one-line item, tasks, or inspiration quotes. I find the center of the January insert and slide it under the first slot of elastic bands on the spine. This spine has 12 elastic bands to hold the monthly insert. We'll set this aside and work on it later. Pull out your February monthly insert. In this tuck spot on the back side of the February insert, I have my pockets ready to add to the page. Remember, this is the leftover part of the page that we cut off to make 2 pockets. We had taped the piece off so we get a border around the tuck spot and the pockets. We just took the leftover piece and cut it in a diagonal, leaving a small margin on each side to form the pockets. I find the page where I want to add one of the pockets. This page where we went over the extra weekly will work great to add a pocket and a tag. These pockets could be double-sided, so you have to decide which side looks best on the page you'll be adding it to. I still think I want this side with the white border to be on this page and on this side of the page. Add glue to the 2 edges, the long pointed edge and the bottom of the pocket. I didn't go up the little margins as my tags are going to be large and I want to be able to insert them into the pocket more as a tuck spot. I added clamps to hold the pocket in place till the glue dries, and enables me to be able to work on another page while it's drying. Flip through the pages and decide where you want to add your second pocket, and decide which side of the pocket you want to add having face up. On this page I want the back side of the pocket to be the front. It matched the page I had chose to add the pocket to. Look how it looks like it was created to fit this page perfectly. The gold lines look like they were created after we added the pocket. You could always turn the pocket upside down and add it to the top of the page and have your tag pull out the bottom. Decisions to be made on which side of the pocket will show and where on the page it will go. Glue your pockets along the long pointed edge all the way around the bottom of the pocket. Leave a little margin of space along the spine. Clamp this pocket so it will dry flat or lay it under some books to dry. To clamp the long side of the pocket, I fold the insert in half and clamp at the middle. Let this dry. Let's work on the tags. We also made this swatch piece last video, and we're going to cut it up and use it as our tags. I think I'll rip the edges with my tear ruler versus using my straight edge for cutting this piece in half. I want a little extra margin on one side of the tag as I want to add some embroidery thread to the edges. These tags are going to be like a swatch of what I'm using in the planner or even for the month. Could use it as a mood board or a vision board for your ideas. I want all 4 edges to have the ripped look, plus I need to make the tag not so long so that it doesn't stick up over my page too much. Do this to both tags and don't forget to ink those edges after ripping the tag to fit your pocket. Find 4 or 5 different colors of embroidery thread and your page reinforcers. You could use eyelets, but we all know how eyelets and I work, and that's just not an option. I turn the tag over and use a pencil to mark where I want to add some hole punches down the side. One tag will have the thread on the right side, and the other tag will have the embroidery thread down the left side. I make my marks about a ½ inch off the edge of the tag and find the center of the tag along the side of the tag. Make a mark evenly spaced out for 5 holes. If I cut the holes while holding both tags with one tag turned where the back side is showing and the other tag facing up, we will have our holes punched along one tag on the right side and one tag on the left side. Line up the edges of the tags together and punch your holes down the side. Going through the watercolor paper in 2 thicknesses is a bit hard, but manageable. I make my hole reinforcers the color I want them to be by just using my blending tool or sponge dabbers to add some distress inks in walnut to the stark white hole reinforcers. You can go over this several times to get the color you want for your project. Add a hole reinforcer to each hole. You can also add them to the back side of the tag, as we will be seeing both sides of the tag when we use it for a journaling card. Do this for both tags, adding the hole reinforcers to each hole front and back. And don't forget to ink those edges. I find some material scraps that match this color scheme and rip 3 or 4 pieces into 1/2 inch to 1 inch squares, varying in size so you can see them when we layer them on top of each other. I adhered the material scraps together with a gold brad, as we are using gold this month as an accent. The material I used on the cover of my journal matches this month's color scheme pretty much, so I just use it for my teals and purples. Try to find either material or paper in the colors you have for your swatch. I need a lighter swatch for the teals, so I cut a swatch out of this strip that works best for matching my color swatches. Fray the edges a bit of your scraps if you're using material. Layer the scraps in diagonal patterns on top of each other so you can see a hint of color swatch. Add a hole to the center of the swatches and insert your brad through the swatches and through the tag. I want the swatches to show when I put them into the pocket, so they need to be closer to the top of the tag. I add the tag to the pocket to see kind of where I want the swatch of fabric to fit onto the tag and how it will fit into the pocket. Do this to both tags. Cut the embroidery thread about 1 foot or 2 long and fold in force, giving yourself enough room to fold the thread into force and get through the reinforced holes and pulled tight. We can always cut off any excess thread if it's too long, but it's hard to tie if it's too short. Do this to all 5 pieces of embroidery thread. For some reason, I could only find 4 different colors of embroidery thread, so I had to find something else to add the 5th hole. The thread is folded twice, so we have 4 strands. I didn't cut this strand, as it was easier to force 2 folded over pieces through the reinforced hole than 4 separate strings. Plus, we want the loop to go through from the back side of the tag to the front, and then take the tail ends of the thread and push them through the 2 loops. Pull the tail ends tight and you have a nice slip knot on the side of the tag. Do this to all 5 holes on both tags. The holes didn't match up with my color swatches as well as they should have, and the color of your embroidery thread to match the color swatches, but that just isn't the case for my tags. Looking back, I would have put the holes at the end of each of the color swatches and add the threads to match the color swatch. But when I make this type of tag again, and I will make this necessary changes because I think these tags are a great addition to our planners and journals. I could see having one of these in every journal I make, and you would have a nice color combo to refer back to when adding ephemera to your pages. For my fifth hole, I add some scraps of tea bags that I had used in my last journal, 2 tiny thin strips of tea bag. These are really strong and held up to threading it through the reinforced holes and pulling the ends tight to form a slip knot on the hole. Trim off any excess embroidery thread and add to your pockets. I remove all of my clamps now that my pockets have dried onto the page and ready to add our tags. You want the tag with the holes and embroidery thread sticking out on the left side to go into this pocket that is closest to the spine. That way the threads stick out and you can use them as pull tabs for pulling out the pocket. The other pocket will have the thread sticking out on the right side of the tag. The material swatches fit nicely up against the pocket and can dangle over the pocket a bit. I like that. We still have this back tuck spot we need to add a tag to. Let's do a variation to the ones we have already done. I pulled out a piece of scrap white cardstock and my fine line tip black bottle to add some asymmetric writing to this cardstock. Have fun and just make some marks. It doesn't have to read anything, just letting loose and getting some squiggles to the page. Let this dry. I didn't, and smudged my page a bit. I found a ticket that fit nicely across the bottom of this tag, or should I say the side. Not sure how this tag will fit into the tuck spot yet. Any pretty paper or material you want to put across the side would work. It just needs to be a couple inches wide and as long as the journaling card. My ticket wasn't quite as long as the journaling card, so I end up cutting down the journaling card to fit the ticket. Either way, put some color on the end of your journaling card. We should never forget to ink those edges. Glue this piece onto the edge of your journal card. Add 3 strings of our embroidery thread down this edge. Decide which way you want your journaling card to fit into the pocket or tuck spot before adding your pretty paper or ticket to the page, as we will put the holes down the pretty paper side. Because as we found out making the other tags, we like the threads to poke out along the tag. I have mine where they don't show as much as I would have liked. This is real time, and I didn't go back and fix what may be a better option. You get to see my mistakes and maybe what could be changed to make this journaling card even better. Pull off some embroidery thread to add to the end of your journaling card. I'm using 3 strands of the embroidery thread for this card. Mark your center of your card and punch 3 holes. First hole being in the center and the other holes 1 on each side of the center hole, if using 3 holes. Add your hole reinforcers to the holes front and back. Fold the embroidery thread over into 4ths and put the loops through the reinforced hole. Pull the thread ends tight to form a slip knot onto the reinforced holes. Trim off any excess embroidery thread to fit your journaling card. I also trimmed the journaling card at this time to fit the ticket on the end, plus there was too much wasted space where I'd started the Simic writing, so I trimmed the journaling card to fit what I had created. Again, we ink the edges to give our journaling card a finished look, both front and back of the journaling card, as we will be using the back side for notes. Figure out how the card will sit in the pocket or tuck spot. I suggest thinking about this beforehand because now I see that my threads won't show like I was hoping for. Lessons learned. It's too long to fit into the pocket this way. I could have cut it down, but I wanted a large journaling card to put into this pocket. If I orientate the journaling card this direction, then we need to add something down this left side of the card, like some color swatches or our paints that we used to create the February insert. I want 3 circles of paint swatches down this left side of the journaling card. I used my blending tool to make a round circle in 3 locations down this left side. This idea turned out to be a great idea, as now I have a walnut stain around my paint swatches, which looks great. I get out my 2 teal colors of paint that I had used to create the February insert, and again this paint is heavy-bodied and needs to be watered down to get it to even flow onto the paper. I also have a paint pen that I have a purple color filled with, maybe a little dark for the color inspiration piece we used, but it stands out nicely on the finished page. Filled the circles in with the 3 colors of paint, putting the purple in the center circle and adding the lightest teal color to the top circle and the darkest teal color to the bottom circle. I had a little extra paint left over and didn't want it to go to waste, so I added it to another piece of cardstock in the same manner we made our February insert in, free-form lines across the page. I don't know what I'll do with this page, but it will go into my stash, and these are 3 of my favorite colors, so I know I'll be using them again, so it will become a tag or something later. I think these tags are still missing a little bit, so maybe add a cluster to each one with material, cheesecloth, numbers, and whatever is left on my desk. I pull out 3 labels that were in my stash pieces and find some random numbers in my stash and start layering a little cluster to add to each tag, fraying the edges of the material if I have material on the clusters. Glued these onto the tag so that when they are in the pocket you will be able to see it, or at least a portion of the cluster. One of the sheer fabrics I used to make this cluster was too white, so I added my blending tool that has walnut stain on it right over the top of the material, pulling it so it made the mesh of the material look like it had holes or larger gaps in the fibers in some areas. A worn look is what I wanted. Glue the pieces together and add to the tag. We have 3 lovely tags for our February insert and 3 gorgeous pockets. Have a great day and happy crafting in your February planner. Bye now.